reaches of deep space.
And I think it's very important to understand that this time is shared not only with yourself and your spirit, but with others. So how you choose to spend that time is extremely valuable. Understanding that there is a limit to your availability and your ability is the greatest understanding we can have in life, and knowing that it ultimately will come to an end. We don't determine that. No one else determines that. That is only our God's heaven and creator and above, Jesus Christ Almighty, or whoever you may believe in. I think that is extremely important. Some ad on CBS News, because this is where the Apple News app gets their news from, I guess, is CBS News. Some decades after Pablo Escobar brought hippos to Colombia, a country is now dealing with dozens of them. Why would Pablo Escobar do that? Why would he bring hippos to? I guess he was just trying to be exotic. Colombia's got a hippo problem. Oh, son of a bitch! And you thought your city was fucked up. You don't got a bunch of hippos running around. Anyway, back to the donkey. Am I talking about me or the article? For you to decide. Like, take things at face value. Assumptions. There's a I always love this coaching point. Assumptions. Assuming. Ass. You and me. Assuming makes an ass out of you and me. Yeah, if you're going around and you think like people watching, you can just make these assumptions that, XYZ is this and that. Like, no, you're just gonna you're making an ass out of yourself, and you're gonna make an ass out of that person because they're probably making the same assumption out of you, and now you got two people butting heads and arguing. Like, just fucking chill out, man. Be open and honest, and just figure it out. Like, be open. Take the fucking mistake. Say yes. Go on that date. And if you fuck up, you fuck up, man. It is what it is. It is what it is. Like, it's life. Like, I think this is honestly a perfect example of what's going on right now. For everybody who voted for the blonde guy as president, they were promised a lot of different things in terms of policies, in terms of change, XYZ, whatever. And then it wasn't necessarily delivered on. And if anything, a lot of other things were highlighted in red rather than just framed. Let's just say that, things were a little taken out of proportion, to say the least. I thought we had a pretty good gig, waking up, being able to do this stuff. I think it's a pretty good gig. Waking up, being a human and living, having all four appendages and a heart that beats. That's a pretty damn good gig. So how are you going to use that stuff? What are you going to do with it? A pretty big task on my life. I don't know if anybody's ever had ants. Insert Family Guy clip.
Wow, I haven't felt this powerful since I got to decide which ant lives and which ant dies. You shall battle to the death, and the winner will be given his freedom. Why are you looking at me like that?
Peter, would you like a glass of... Oh, my God! I told you not to play God with those ants!
Oh, it's going under the fridge! Oh!
Just use a dish towel.
There aren't any, Brian. You need to come in here. Oh, we are gonna have ants.
Ants are... I low-key think ants are worse than cockroaches. I think about this a lot of times going to, like, sports arenas. Like, I've played sports my whole life. I've been into a lot of arenas. I've went to a lot of stadiums. And as a player and as a just fucking person, I guess you could say. And the one thing always reigns supreme with me is that when I go to these events, they remind me of just large Roman Colosseum games. And it just shows the fragility of human society. Specifically, when there's large groups of people together, it's just like you look at that, and I am almost always invoked with fear, because if some sort of crazy issue outbreaks, like, there isn't really a lot of hope for those people to get out safe and sound. I think there's a lot of unthought procedures that we haven't imagined yet about large sports facilities and arenas and games, just from a completely, just I guess you could say it from like an OSHA perspective. Like it's scary. If you ever sit in like the top row of like a football stadium on a Sunday on a crowded game, like that shit is, it's enlivening because it's great. You see the power of the people all around you. See 100,000 people doing what this bread and circusing their ass off. Blah 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 blah.
These are the last people we can be openly racist against.
What I don't like right now is I think it's open season on stereotypical uses for Italian Americans, right? You can do whatever you want. You can cast a non-Italian American to play Italian American with a stereotypical accent. You can walk around saying, "Oh," or "gabagool," or "sleep with the fishes."
You're 1,000% right. Like, just even running the Hardcore Italians page too, some of the comments I see, it's like, you would never say this for another ethnicity, or, you know what I mean? Like, there's a huge double standard on Italian. I feel like we have thick skin, probably growing up, we have thick skin, you know what I mean? So I don't know if we just like never really stood up as much as we should have. Yeah. But yeah, it's getting out of hand. Even like comedian Shane Gillis said something like Italians are the only people you can still make fun of.
Oh, he's got to admit about that.
Italians are the last people we can be openly racist against. What?
Now they're extorting like comics for it, specifically in this clip. Like how you're coming at Shane Gillis for his Italian joke. Like you're just giving him all the more reason to load up and just nuke the Italians. Like you're feeding right into the frenzy there, and like you look like such a pusillanimous person for complaining about that. Like if anything, like that's a compliment. The joke about the Italians being the last people you could be racist to, like, yeah, great. Like I love when people are racist to Italians. I almost always agree with them. And I feel like I've been running like I'm not going to touch on this now, but I think it's just a load of fucking. You need to be open about your mistakes. You can't shell the mistakes away, because that's half the battle, is being open about, fucking up. And that's what's good about community. And I'm not talking about these grown-up camp alcohol communities where you go ziplining and drink rum and fucking zipline and go on a fucking wet slide with a bunch of other 30, 40-year-olds or 20, whatever. That's not it. Yeah, with your Labubu doll tied to your backpack. That's not what we're doing. That's not what I'm talking about. Community is understanding that, what you're doing is bigger than you, and that there's other people in your immediate and intermediate span and touch in life that need what you're going through as much as you need what you're going through. And you got to be able to understand where are they taking that? Where are they going home to, And that's what I do. When I see the ants conglomerate over a spot, I don't get so hasty and grab at them. I follow their line home and I find their nest. And then that's where we've been going. And I've just been absolutely assaulting generation after generation after generation of ants. And it hasn't affected my sleep. I've actually been sleeping a lot better because of how much less ants we've had. But I always think about the humanity of ants. And one of my favorite movies as a kid was the movie Bug's Life with all the ants. And then there's the movie Ant? No. It's one of the movies like that. But specifically Bug's Life, like those ants, like I wonder, because my favorite character as a kid was Hopper, who I didn't know was Kevin Spacey as a kid, so do your research. But I feel like I just became the Hopper of society to these ants, because I just track them down and I nuke them every single time. Like, do you think the people that had to use these houses in the middle of the winter knew when their time was coming, or if they even had more time ahead of these? No, they had no clue. All they had was the dude in the bunk next to them, above them. That's all they had. People back then didn't have anything else but people. And nowadays, we can't even deal with them. When are we going to realize that what's set is set, and what we have is what we have, and we need to make the most of that? We can't keep on demonizing others when that's all we have. All this stuff, this tech that I'm using, I can't fuck it. I can't have kids with it. It just now can talk to me back, and people are using that and dying anyway. So when are we going to realize that outside of ourselves and whatever assets, monetary value we have, we only have each other? And the more we don't embrace each other, the more we won't have each other. And if we don't even have each other, most people can't even deal with themselves. So how is that going to work? It was specifically geared towards the FTC and their lack thereof of executing, the goodness and humanity of America. So Federal Appeals Court has struck down on the FTC's click to cancel rule. This would have required companies to make it easier for customers to cancel subscriptions. It was supposed to go into effect next week, and it was supposed to go today, July 14th, I believe today. It was supposed to go in effect today. Yeah, so I saw a bunch of memes. It was like the government tries to do its job for once, and some judge just says no. But that's not necessarily how it went. The Federal Appeals Court struck down the FTC's click-to-cancel rule just days before it was supposed to take effect. Today, July 14th, 2025, the rule would have forced companies like Netflix, gyms, airlines, etc. to let company or customers cancel subscriptions as easily as signing up, requiring the same number of clicks and no forced chats or calls. The court's decision didn't reject the goal of the rule. It was overturned purely on procedural grounds. Specifically, the FTC failed to conduct a preliminary regulatory analysis as required for any rule expected to impact the economy by more than $100 million annually. Because that step was skipped, the court declared the rule invalid. So if you read that as objectively as I do, and you see retards, I don't care if I get demonetized for using that word on YouTube, you see dummies talk about like, oh, that stupid judge, blah, 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 government, blah, blah, blah. No, the government literally preemptively skipped a step in this bill or in this act and was like, yeah, we'll skip this because we essentially put the judge, we corner the judge in saying no because she doesn't have or he doesn't have the ability to say yes because it would be illegal. So if that judge goes, oh, you skipped that on purpose, I'm going to clear this because it's right, that judge then gets fired for like malpractice, like I'm sure malpractice or something. Like it's not going to just go over easy. Being able to share these experiences brings me back to the root cause. Like, hey, I just have to be good. Like I like comparing, utility in life in some portions, like being a good belt. Like I just want to be able to hold myself up and be look good at certain points, but if I'm tucked in, I look good, but you can cover me up here and there, don't always have to be outward appearing, but even when you don't think I'm there, I'm holding you up. I'm holding up the situation, and I'm doing my part. I'm staying involved, and I'm doing something bigger than myself. I'm a small belt. I'm holding up a 200-pound man's pants, because if I don't hold him up, he could be a child predator at any moment. This guy's pants falls down, especially if you don't wear underwear on a consistent basis, like me sometimes. Not with cargo shorts or anything. Most of the time, if I have a belt on, I have underwear on. But, for the guys that don't, a belt can be a big, big thing for you. A belt can just be a fucking 2-foot piece of leather with a buckle. Or it could be one step closer to being a sex offender. A football game. It was tough for me to internalize that a lot, because I would look out the bus window with whatever music I was listening to. It was either Metallica or Lil Uzi, and I would struggle to think that what I was doing was that fucking important. Like, is me going to play this football game that fucking important? And the answer is always no. That any administrator, any coach is going to tell you it is. It's the most important day of your life, blah, 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 blah. But I look out those windows, and I could only imagine the world going on around me and how big the world is. And then what I was doing that day was not really a waste of time, but it was ultimately just another day banging the head against another fuck. Like, I don't know. It was hard to make what I was doing that day the central focus and make it seem like it was super important. Now, you can internalize that and say, hey, this guy fucking didn't like football that much. He wasn't a big football guy. I mean, whatever. If you want to call it that, call it that. But I'd say that my mind was more catered around that life is way bigger than sports. And I sit at these giant events where there's stadiums filled to the tippy tops, all abiding for one team most of the time. And it's never really that personal with anything else until it comes to something like that. Like what motivates people to be so passionate about something that is so figmentive and so much of a facade, and like I said earlier, that it's now basically a publicly traded thing. Like there's no NFL stock, but give it 10 years, I guarantee you there will be.
Within the far reaches of deep space,